The Israel-Palestine conflict, a simple, brief history. Before we continue, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. A common misconception about the Israel-Palestine conflict is that it has been raging for centuries, rooted in deep religious animosities. In reality, while religion plays a role, the conflict primarily centers on two groups of people claiming the same land. It traces back about a century to the early 1900s, when the region, then part of the Ottoman Empire, was religiously diverse. It was home to Muslims, Christians, and a small number of Jews, all living generally in peace. However, changes were brewing. Firstly, people in the region began to develop a distinct Palestinian national identity. Secondly, in Europe, the Zionist movement emerged, promoting the idea that Judaism was not just a religion, but a nationality deserving of its own nation. After centuries of persecution, many Jews viewed establishing a Jewish state in their historic homeland in the Middle East as their best hope for safety. In the early 20th century, tens of thousands of Jews migrated to the region. Following the collapse of the Ottoman Empire after World War I, the British took control of what they called the British Mandate for Palestine. Initially, the British permitted Jewish immigration, but tensions between Jews and Arabs grew as more Jews settled, leading to violence. By the 1930s, the British restricted Jewish immigration. After World War II and the Holocaust, Jewish immigration surged and the global community began supporting the idea of a Jewish state. In 1947, as violence between Jews and Arabs escalated, the United Nations proposed dividing British Palestine into two states, one for Jews, Israel, and one for Arabs, Palestine. Jerusalem, with its religious significance to Jews, Christians, and Muslims, was to become an international zone. While Jews accepted this plan and declared independence as Israel, many Arab states saw it as another form of European colonialism. Several Arab nations declared war on Israel in an effort to establish a unified Arab Palestine. Israel won the war, expanding beyond its UN-mandated borders, seizing much of the land intended for Palestine and expelling many Palestinians, creating a refugee crisis that persists today. By the end of the 1948 war, Israel controlled most of the territory, except for Gaza, held by Egypt, and the West Bank, held by Jordan. This marked the beginning of the Arab-Israeli conflict. In 1967, during the Six-Day War, Israel seized the Golan Heights from Syria, the West Bank from Jordan, and Gaza and the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt, placing Israel in control of the Palestinian territories. In 1978, Israel returned the Sinai to Egypt as part of a peace treaty, following the Camp David Accords, marking the start of the end of the broader Arab-Israeli conflict. However, Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories in the West Bank and Gaza continued, and the focus of the conflict shifted to Israel and the Palestinians. The Palestine Liberation Organization, or PLO, initially sought the elimination of Israel, but later accepted the idea of dividing the land between Israel and Palestine. During the 1980s, the situation worsened with the rise of Israeli settlements in occupied Palestinian territories and the eruption of the First Intifada, or uprising. Hamas, an extremist group, was formed during this time with the goal of destroying Israel. In the 1990s, the Oslo Accords attempted to bring peace, but hardliners on both sides opposed the agreement. Extremist violence, such as Hamas suicide bombings and the assassination of Israeli Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, derailed the peace process. The Second Intifada in the early 2000s brought more violence, further diminishing hopes for peace. Israel shifted its approach from seeking peace to managing the conflict, building walls and checkpoints to control Palestinian movements. Israel eventually withdrew from Gaza, leading to Hamas seizing control in a brief civil war with the Palestinian Authority, resulting in Gaza's isolation under a strict blockade and high unemployment. Today, the conflict continues, with periodic violence between Hamas and Israel, widespread suffering among Palestinians, and little political will on either side for peace. The situation is untenable, and many believe that unless something dramatic changes, the future could bring even worse consequences for both Israelis and Palestinians. A big thanks to you. Be sure to subscribe and share our channel for incredible history.